Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Jazz for Peace podcast, where the final solution is love. And speaking of love, we have Lesley Pazdzioch with us. And this is going to be a very unique show, folks, because this is her very first podcast. And, somebody gave Jazz for Peace, their first chance. Somebody gave me my first show as a guest. Somebody gives everyone has to give that person that very first. There's always a first for everything as we go on their journey. And with this, we want to make this very, very special for Lesley because we feel like she really has something special to offer and that she's going to go on now and do some amazing things from this moment forward. Not that she hasn't already, but we're going to start out with a special musical presentation that I've kind of put together that I think relates to her, and she can tell us whether it does or not after we finish. Maybe she could clarify. But I'm going to start out with a song that is about hurt and the trauma and the need to heal. And this is a song by the great Thelonious Monk called "Ruby, My Dear." And these words are, about someone who is kind of broken because of issues that have happened, but now needs to needs to take all of that and channel it in a positive way. That's kind of what that song's about. Then it's going to go into kind of an improvisation where I recite the poem Jazz for Peace, and then it's going to actually wind up with the actual jazz standard that is called Peace itself. It was written by Horace Silver. And so that's going to hopefully transform us from one part of where Lesley begins with her patients or the people that she's working with and finishes from hopefully where Lesley is trying to take these people through a process that she went through herself of transformation and is now kind of a conduit to transform others. And so this is kind of a musical journey of what I imagine Lesley is, where she's going to be taking people from one place to another. And let's see what happens here. So here we go. Ruby, my dear, hold back that tear. I know he's gone, your love has flown, you're all alone, and I know you cry. There's no reply. Pain lingers on, it doesn't go, 'cause you say so. One day he came to you and made the music play in his way. You said you'd rather die than say goodbye, but there'll come a day though he's away, you'll sing his song, you'll carry on. Ruby, I hear jazz for peace coming through the trees. And in my heart it fills me like a celebration. I see the lights and I want to follow. Inspired by the past contributions of those that came before and laid the groundwork for us to build on in this universal language that is a gift for all mankind. When we speak it, people are inspired by the creativity and artistry that stands for peace and love and humanity, and intelligence that leads to reaching potential that we have in our souls. So we can raise our total conscience and see that the gift of giving is our greatest privilege. I hear jazz for peace. There's a place that I know where the sycamores grow and daffodils have their fun, where the cares of the day seem to slowly fade away in the glow of the evening sun. Peace when the day is done. If I go there real late, let my mind meditate on everything to be done. If I search deep inside, let my conscience be my guide, then the answers are sure to come. Don't have to worry none. Peace when the day is done. Peace is for everyone.
That was incredibly beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So now the start of that song, the lyrics are a person who's in pain and trauma. Is that a place where someone would start with you when they contact you for, for what you're offering, the things you're offering, or what? Let me know.
Honestly, I think that all of us, everybody goes through situations in our lives where we just don't know how to process the information, and it ends up festering, and it turns growth of actually we just sit in this stage of festering and stagnation. And I think that when the typical therapy now is, you blame others, you blame yourself, you take accountability. And I think that both really keep us still attached somehow. Either we have regret, shame, blame, whatever it is. But what I did, I just got really, I went through a stage where I just got really tired of going back to therapy every few years, every time things would come up. And we all have things from our past that come up, our memories. And I think that when that happens, it's because we didn't process the emotions correctly, right? If we're blaming somebody, if we're having shameful feelings about something, it's because we didn't process it right. And when we learn how to process it correctly, and we gain not only a good understanding of ourselves, but we also gain a good understanding of other people. And therefore, I believe that in this way, I think it brings more peace and more harmony within ourselves. And that way we can live a more balanced life. We need peace and harmony, to me, equal balance. And that's where our balance comes from. And in order to live life the way that we're supposed to be, in the way that's intended through our internal guidance system, we need to have that balance within us so that we can really pay attention to our surroundings or our insides and know which direction to go.
Would you consider the work that you are, embarking on, is that in the world of healing? Is that like a personal healer or a healer in general? Does that fit into that is that the category it is?
Honestly, Rick, I went through a process. It took me about 17 years, last 17 years. And I really got to the point where I've learned that people have the ability to heal themselves. I don't want to heal anybody because I'm not going to be here forever, right? I don't want to have people keep coming back to me. I want to teach people how to heal themselves. And it's by processing their emotions and letting go of what's not really there. So often we take on these responsibility for stuff that's really not ours. And this is where the false beliefs about ourselves come in. If we can just learn how to process it correctly and not blame other people, not blame ourselves, but actually learn together through the experience, whether that person's there or not. But for you as an individual to learn how this works, you're golden. You can get through everything. But it comes to a point where, we're all soulful beings and we come here with purpose. We all have significant purposes. But it's through our interactions that we grow, right? But if we have interactions in our lives that are really traumatic and really bring us a lot of harm, because we can't, and then we just don't know how to process it emotionally and physically, or emotionally and mentally, we'll come out like physically. If we don't process things out mentally properly, we start, as we get older, we start to feel these symptoms within our body. And so once my program is living from the inside out. And what I believe in is that if we really paid attention to who we were on the inside, who we believe we were, we're all unique individuals. We were all uniquely created for very specific purposes. Every life has significant meaning. But if we learn who we are from the inside, not from the external or the environments that we were born into or anything else, but truly who we are on a soulful gut level, we can. That's why we're here, and to grow. But when we don't have that guidance, the external circumstances and the external situation start to define who we are. And what really needs to happen is that we need to define ourselves. So this is what I did over the past 7 years. I've been really working on this project, this program, to say, how can I teach this to people so that they now have the tools that they need to move forward? And one of the things was, but I wanted something that people can build from themselves, right? I want them to take that credit and build their own self-esteem and really know who they are and stand firm so that they can serve their purpose like they need to.
You know, it sounds to me, I'm sensing a bit of empowerment is a big part of your message, because it looks to me like what you want to teach people is how to help themselves, because once you
Absolutely.
learn how to heal yourself, you are now empowered. You are not at the mercy of constant treatment. And you know, this is I mean, what I see the difference between what you're trying to do right now and trying to address is a system that we have in place now where people are at the mercy of treatment all the time. And
Exactly.
treatment is not so much as helpful to them as it is helpful to the industry, that the medical industry, because the medical industry gets to bill every time you treat somebody. You can send a bill and you can bill the insurance and you can do all of these things, and keeping them in treatment is to the advantage, or at least it seems to the layman like me. Keeping a person in treatment is to their advantage, not to the patient's advantage. And what you're trying to do is, I think, say that because you ended up in the situation yourself where you had to overcome and empower yourself so that you weren't constantly a basket case in need of treatment, you're trying to now be a conduit to others to help them in their situation when they find themselves in that position, to get them to where they can treat themselves. Therefore, they are empowered, and they're not, they have a sense of empowerment, which again gives you a psychological benefit. It gives you a spiritual benefit to feel like you can help yourself, that you are not, every time you slip, you are not at the mercy of the industry. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, our our physical bodies are the most amazing and beautiful things that we could ever. I mean, they're like these superhuman computers. And I think that, when we all started to form communities, we kind of lost touch with who we are, like our innate senses. Obviously our five physical senses we're familiar with, but really we have like over 120 senses that we take in information from our environment. I mean, obviously we're aware of 5 to 7 of them, but what about all the rest of it? What about all the rest of it? And what is that impact? If we understand ourselves from an internal, unique, I'm not going to conform to society, or I'm not going to conform to what other people think. I'm going to define myself. That really, it's magical when you can do this. But it doesn't like take you hold yourself responsible a lot easier. That responsibility and that inner knowing, when you know these things about yourself, you can hold yourself accountable for the things that you did wrong, and you can really, the things that people project onto you, you look at it, and it's not like you're going to just throw it back on them with kind of a poor attitude. The interactions that we have with each other, our soul, in order for us to move forward, not have any false beliefs and take on anything, is it has to be an equal understanding. So if somebody treats me poorly, I have to say, what about that can I learn about me from that? Am I am I more compassionate? Is there something more that I have to learn? Is any of it true? And if it's true, how can I use that to grow? But then in the same turn, if you're looking in a mirror, you can say, about this person, what can I learn about people, or, specifically this person? Are they lashing out at me because this is something that they're feeling? And how can I best internalize that so that I'm not angry at this person? I'm going to have compassion and limitless compassion and unconditional love as I go through the world, understanding this is where they were, not hold things against them, because, and you can get to that point when you realize that they're projecting onto you from something going on within them. Does that make sense?
Well, there's all kinds of projecting that goes on now.
Oh, all
And
the all day long.
right. And you notice that it's on the increase as as the situation gets worse, as the situation gets worse, you find a society where you can't speak up to the problem. You can't even speak about the problem because now they're going to project their issues onto you. And first of all, there's a shoot the messenger mentality. So they want to censor that, which is telling them. It's almost like addiction. It's almost a fractal of addiction, because in addiction really gets bad when you notice that you can't talk to the person about, let's say, his drinking. You can't even approach him and talk to him, right? Because you don't approach him because you know that it's going to be met with harsh resistance. And then what that person will do is actually project something about themselves onto you, because they need to get their self-loathing and self-hatred onto someone else, and then they can hate that person.
Yeah. We have a responsibility, obviously, to each other as a human race, like humanity. We're all here because we're supposed to be growing and learning and expanding. And I think that right now, we've just gotten to this really hostile interactions with each other because we're not doing it with a loving, compassionate way. If I were drinking too much, I wouldn't want somebody to walk up to me and say, "Lesley, you're an alcoholic." I would want somebody to walk up to me and say, "Hey, you know what? Can I talk to you? Can I share something that I'm feeling? I'm really concerned about you." That's better than walking up to somebody and accusing or projecting onto that. But I think it's more what I'm trying to get at. This is more of an individual within yourself. This is the inside job. This is something that you do inside you, for you, because of you, and about you, so that you can move forward in life. We all come here as a soul. We pop into these human bodies, and we experience all these emotions and thoughts, and we're given this gift of free will to create whatever we want. And so it's our responsibility to say, what am I going to do? And what am I going to create? And how am I going to live my life? It's how we live our lives that really puts forth, what we're doing with our lifetime. And if we go forward and we do things that, bring harm to others, and we don't hold ourselves accountable, and, just act be selfish throughout our lives, then, that's what we're putting out. But if we learn who we are from the inside, and we learn how to utilize this guidance. We all came with this guidance. We have divine guidance all the time. And the only thing that blocks us to hear this guidance is our false beliefs about ourselves and our treatment of other people. And when we clear all that away, and I call this, there's a process that I call, and it's through the program that I put together, living from the inside out. There's a process that's called healing forward. Our windshield is bigger than our rearview mirror of our cars, because when we look forward, we see all of our options. We have this little rearview mirror that we can look at, glance at once in a while and say, "Oh, this is how far I've come," right? I've come a long way. But healing forward doesn't mean that you have to go back and dig up stuff from the past. It means whatever it is that you had to learn, you've already learned it. It's already learned. You've learned it. Your human body took it all in. So as you move forward, all you have to do is really start paying attention to what goes on inside of you. And it's like a domino effect that when you change that behavior as you move forward, all that stuff in the past that falls away. It just goes away because you have a greater understanding of you. And that's really what matters. Is we just need to understand who we are, take care of who we are, and we will bring into our lives everything that we need in order to complete our missions, our soulful mission here. This isn't a religious thing, but you can add religion to it. But this is really about you having a beautiful relationship within yourself with your divine creator. I don't care if you believe in God, if you believe in Buddha, if you believe in whatever you believe, that you could, be respectful. I don't agree with God being called the universe, because he created it, but whoever and whichever path gets you to your maker and gets you home, that's beautiful. But we have to really understand what it takes to be here. And when we utilize this divine guidance, that's what gets us through life, serving our purpose, making the difference that our souls came here to make, and having a beautiful experience along the way. That's what we're here. We're here to have fun. There's going to be some rocky times, yes, but there's just so much that we miss when we're not living our personal truth.
Well, what I notice a lot is a lot of people are caught in these kind of catch-22 situations where by the next step in their career is a huge step back spiritually and emotionally and psychologically. I'll just give you an example. There are healing centers where they charge people a lot of money to go to them. One of them is called Big Sur. It's in California. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it's a place where people pay maybe $12,000-$13,000 a week to go there for healing. Now, to get into there, to get healed, you have to be on the board of this or on the board of that, right? But now some of these boards that they're sitting on a board, and the next step for that board is to find a higher profit motive for that company. And then they're looking at the next step forward. And let's say you're in medicine. Well, the next step forward to profits means sick people to treat. Do you know what I'm saying? It could mean a situation like that. So here they are on a board, and they're trying to figure out without being obvious to each other, but knowing that, we're looking for higher profits here, figure out a way to maybe keep people sick, get people in treatment by denying them things that they need. Like if you take a mouse and you put them in if you put a couple of mice in a jail cell and you put cocaine in there, they'll take the cocaine until they die. But if you give them all of the things they need in nature, they won't be interested in the cocaine. So in other words, these people are looking at profits, and they're looking at, let's deny music from the schools, and then we can treat the kids with for Adderall. I don't know, but I'm looking at things being removed by people who are smart enough to know better, causing people to have to go into treatment, therefore making more money for so-and-so or such and such. I mean, if you look at the opioid epidemic, they actually passed a law that said Oxycontin, which is the equivalent of, pharmaceutical heroin, is not addictive. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, they passed a law through Congress while all of us were looking at some stupid O.J. Simpson type of craziness, right? They got that through Congress, and now it's not an addictive substance, and now they can start this crazy thing where they're rewarding health practitioners to get people addicted to it. So in other words, what I'm saying is there are tons of conflicts of interest which create basket cases out of those who are committed to going to the next level in their career. In other words, the next level in somebody's career is what's making them a basket case.
My take on that, Rick, is this: that if you're faced with something like this, right? We're all faced with situations where you'd have to look inside yourself. If I were faced with that, I would have to look inside myself and say to myself, Lesley, how do you feel about this? Is this true to you? Is this true? And is it going to benefit others, or is it going to bring others harm? And if it's going to benefit others, that's awesome, right? If it's going to benefit me, because everything that benefits me is going to benefit others. Things that don't benefit me is not going, that I know aren't going to benefit me, then I know it's not going to benefit other people. That's a personal choice. This is part of your soul's mission. This is part of why you're here. You have to decide, what is best for you. And then people say, well, this is my career and this is how I afford to live and such. You know what? What's more important to you, a high-paying job or being able to sleep at night and knowing that you're contributing not only to yourself but humanity in a very positive, powerful way. You know, these opioids and drugs being, even marijuana. I mean, granted they got that through because it was helping people with pain and such, and that's fine. That's your personal choice. You get to choose. But first, before you choose, you have to say to yourself, why would I choose this? Why would I choose to smoke marijuana all the time? Why would I choose to take these opioids as a recreational drug? I'll have a funny story to tell you about that in a minute, but why am I choosing this? Is it because I don't feel good inside? And I'm using these substances to make myself feel better. Which, you know what? If you're using them to make yourself feel better, get in my program, because I'm telling you what, there's nothing better than feeling good about who you are because of who you are from the inside of yourself. And you don't need any of this stuff. It's the mental confusion that when we just mentally and emotionally get just so frustrated because we just don't know the answers. But if we just look inside, they're all there. But we don't, so much of society doesn't teach us to look within, and so much of society doesn't realize we are all uniquely created. And we are supposed to do it. What's causing all this confusion in our minds and our bodies is that we're not connecting with our souls. And it's our internal guidance system saying, hello, you're really not on the right path. And the more confusion you have and the more pain you have, those, the emotions that we feel are the guidance systems that we need to go forward. If our emotions are telling us anything but peace and harmony and above, we've got work to do on the inside of us. And it's so much easier than people realize. I mean, I've been through, I spent, oh my God, days, we can spend days in bed crying, trying to heal this stuff. And finally one day I said, you know what? I'm sick of healing, trying to feel this pain and stuff, because that sucks. Feel it to heal it. I don't think so. I don't want to feel it to heal it. What I want to do is I want to find some sort of peace and harmony within this and move forward. That's what it's about. There was a study that they did in actually New York City. On the weekends, they were testing the waters, and they found a high level of recreational drugs and opioids. And what was happening, it was killing all the 1 micro anemia in the water, because it was making them kind of just, they were dazed, and so they were gobbling them up, and they were actually, the ecosystem in the waters were becoming, they started to get wiped out, right? The ecosystem just wasn't there anymore to sustain a healthy water supply. So when I heard this study, I decided I'm going to put all my kitchen waste down, the garbage disposal, all my vegetables. I'm going to cram it all down there, and I'm going to feed those little things, right? So I'd done this for over a couple of years, and oh my God, and I had just finished my basement. And my basement flooded from all that stuff that I was sending down to those little micronevias. And it cost $24,000 to fix that. There is nothing like, trying to do a
So
good
you
deed.
ended up with a $24,000 problem trying to help those fish, right?
Trying to help these little micronevias with all this stuff. And I thought, Lesley, what would you think? But I don't know. It was,
Well,
it was something
that's
crazy.
why. Yeah, well, that's why I'm bringing some of this stuff up, because you're involved in something right now that to me is a it can get people to stop and make a decision before they jump off a cliff for what society calls the top of success. And
Right.
the perfect example right now, center stage on the on the front page of the whole world right now, is an executive at Boeing Airlines whose salary somehow is $32.8 million a year. to be an executive at this company. Plus, God only knows how much more in perks and amenities and other bonuses and stuff. And what could he possibly be doing? Well, he's supposed to be making sure that the planes are working. You know what I mean? But the planes are falling apart, and that's why he's being called into Congress, because his freaking airplanes are falling apart right and left. A kindergartner could run that company better from what they're supposed to actually be doing. And they get this guy up on the on the stand, and basically you can see with your own eyes that the reason he's getting paid $33 million, okay, to millions of dollars per month, okay, is because he's running a scam where they don't check parts and don't pay people and skim money off the top and feed all the fish in the executive rooms and all that stuff and pump up the stock price and do all these things that make the planes terrifyingly dangerous. You follow me? And he's being rewarded with a 32 million. This is a man who shouldn't have a job anywhere near an airline. Do you know what I mean? He shouldn't have a job at anything that should be trusted. I mean, I don't even know if I would trust him as a janitor. He might poison the toilets for all I know. But this guy is 33 million. So, I mean, what you're offering is a chance for these people to, see that what they're doing that is catapulting them to the top of what we think is the successful world of pay salary is really last place in terms of ethics, in terms of morals, in terms of, their soul has got to be in the toilet.
What does your soul mean to you? What, and that's one of the top questions that you have to ask. Why are you here? The first two questions I asked when I started this healing journey is, and it was actually a therapist that I saw at the time, and she asked me, Lesley, who are you? And I told her all about my kids, my business that I had at the time. I was newly married and all this stuff, right? When I was done, she said to me, those are nice attributes about your life, Lesley, but who are you? Right?
Right. So in other words, nothing
and
about
I looked
you
at him,
really
I said,
matters.
well, what are you talking about? This is me. And she said, no, Lesley, these are outer aspects of you. Who are you inside? And I said, what? And she goes, look within. And I looked at her and I said, look within what? And she said, look within yourself. And Rick, I had no idea what that meant. No idea. But let me tell you what, I was damned and determined to figure it out, because nobody's ever asked me, who are you? I'd spent my whole life trying to please everybody and do what everybody expected of me. And that is what was creating me. And when when you have to look at what you are, you're like, I don't know. If our outer external experiences begin to create who we are, that we become what we do see, how we're treated, we're a mess. And that's when the mental confusion comes in. That's when the physical ailments come in. And the only way that we can truly heal that is by taking care and taking responsibility for ourselves and saying, you know what? I can't consciously be okay with it. Some people are okay with accepting a $32 million a year salaried income on a job and do whatever. But what does your soul mean to you? And more importantly, what does your life mean to you while you're here? Why are you here? That's another thing. Who are you and why are you truly here? Are you here just because you're just going to live life, like free for all? Or are you seriously taking your life into the meaning and the purpose behind your life serious? We all have this really serious responsibility to not only ourselves, well, mainly to ourselves, but what we do with that, we put out into the world. It's like this, well, I don't care what happens, so this can happen. That when we put these things out into the world, we're held accountable for that. And when we judge other people and shame other people and ridicule other people, that's what we see going on in the news. I quit watching television. In fact, my television's behind my sofa. I quit watching the news and television probably about 5 or 6 years ago. I haven't had a TV for that long. If I need to know something, then it comes up, on my computer, or I'll go somewhere. But that's the whole point. Is first of all, you need to know who you are. Second of all, why you're here. And every single soul, everybody, so unique that we are born with gifts and talent that within ourselves, like you with your music. You and your music, that is such a profound gift. And your ability to be able to just right off the top of your head play and say words, that's a spiritual gift. You have the ability to heal people through the tone of the music, the piano, the vibration that comes from it, and the words that you speak. And really, music, or the sound of things, the vibration of things, is really how communication first came about. So it's interesting perspective that you see about that. But this is all individual. You came with free will. You get to choose what you are going to do in this lifetime and how you're going to do it. And if you want to truly live your greatest and best life, it must be done from the inside, because that is the only way that you are going to be able to hear that divine guidance. And you're going to make mistakes. We're human. We're supposed to. But holding ourselves accountable for that, and apologizing for the things that we know that we did, that we're doing, that aren't appropriate, and making those changes in ourselves. Really figure out, what do you stand for? What are your morals, your values, your ethics? What are your gifts, your talents? How can you combine all these beautiful aspects of you and move forward? That is what I mean by moving forward. You don't have to go back and visit the past. What you need to do is you need to look at this beautiful person that you are, the beauty that's within you, your gifts, your talents, really, and live them. Live them. If you're such an amazing talent, and you could put full, just this divine words into this stuff. Can you imagine where the world would be if you didn't share your gifts? If you hadn't shared your gifts with the world, where would the world be? You can hide these gifts, or you can realize them and share them. You realize them and you share them, and you make beautiful music, and it's healing others. Does that make sense?
It does. And you know what? It's interesting, because there was a general one time who did all of these things and got to a point, and finally he said, no, I'm not doing it anymore. And he just rebelled against the whole idea of what he was doing, becoming this 4-star general, 5-star general, 6-star general, that doing things that he didn't believe in, harming people's lives. But that's rare. But you know what? Anybody can do that, because everyone can wake up and say, I'm going to play my best game of life today. Now, because of music, and because of the spirituality and creativity and artistry and intellectuality that comes with the arts and culture, I have a stopgap, because I wouldn't take all $32.8 million of that man's salary to be even one note less of an impact on the world that I'm able to make, even if it's touching one person with my music. So in other
Right.
words, that presentation that I just gave, that was my best, because I was, for that moment, I was trying to open up a channel and just allow things to happen, and giving my best for that moment in time, for better or worse, almost like a marriage. I mean, I was giving my best, but it's for better or worse. If I fell on my face, I fell on my face. But I was trusting the universe and allowing it to happen. I wouldn't take all 32.8 million of that salary. I would not accept if they told me it was going to come with a even one note worse even one note was going to be worse. So that's where my stopgap is, and I have that in place. But what you have a lot of times with these people is they've lost one piece that is a moral fiber, and now there's no amount that they won't sacrifice, and then no amount will satisfy them. So it's almost like the bank robber fractal. You see these bank robbers, Why are you robbing your seventh bank? If you got away with one bank, why don't you just take that money and now go be a good person and spend it, and you have enough money? For some reason or other, they can't stop robbing banks, and they eventually rob enough banks that they finally get caught. This guy at Boeing, 32.8 million. And you know what? He probably could have retired. How many years ago could he have just stopped doing that? Instead, he's got to make those planes even less safe to get an even higher salary. There's no stopping us. It's almost like he's addicted, like a crack addict. You know what I mean? To this massive, gutting of you know what I mean? He's addicted to the activity. So, a lot of it is breaking people out of these, but they have to want to do it too. It's a really tough thing. But I see you as being someone who could get a person to look at reality and say, wait a minute, I will never be anything if I don't stop right now and decide who I'm going to look up to in this world and follow those the highest level examples that have been set on this planet, and follow those people and their examples, and just hope that I have enough to eat at the end of the day and basic necessities. If I have more, great. But I mean, that's your inner wealth. I mean, these people, I mean, you've got to be bankrupt on the inside if that's what you're doing to get that 33 million. I hate to single him out, but I'm just saying there's so many people like this.
I think that it's a matter of, you know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know, right? If we grow up in a situation, if we grew up in like a third world country where we wore loincloths and everything else, and then one day, somebody came up and blindfolded us and brought us to the United States and into, some elaborate neighborhood and showed them these houses. What a culture shock, right? What a culture shock. But if this is the mentality that they have been living, that's normal. That's their normal. And for us to sit back and judge somebody's normal, I mean, it's not normal for us, and it's not a decision that we would make for ourselves. But when we judge that, we actually are condemning ourselves. We have to look at these situations, and this is part of what I teach in this, is to be able to look at situations in life and be able to pull from it. What about this resonates well with me, and what about this doesn't? And if it's something that doesn't resonate well with me, I'm not going to judge it, blame it, shame it, criticize it, or anything else. I'm going to thank it because it taught me something about me. It solidified your morals, your values, your ethics, what you want for you. But by not putting them down, when you put people down like that, that shows envy, that shows jealousy, that shows, hypocrisy, whatever goes along with it. If you can actually look at things like that in your life, and you can just say, this is their normal, this is my normal, and learn from all those things. And that's when you look inside, you say, okay, Lesley, or, self, I say, whatever you want to say. What is it that I can take from this and learn more about me and more about the world? This happens in the world. We know what happens in the world. But how is it going to affect you? Is it going to make you think, oh, well, that's okay for you because they're doing it? No. It's like, what's right for you? And that's following conformity. If you look and say, well, so-and-so did it, I can do it too, right? No. If you believe inside that it's for you, knock yourself out. But if you know and truly inside of you that it's not for you, then don't do it. But that's what it is, living from the inside out. We're all different. We might, we all have all these characteristics about us that when we look inside and we say, oh, well, this is who I am, that's beautiful, right? We can make our own self. But it's that interaction that I was talking about. It's being able to look at that stuff from a 360 view and come from it a better person. There's a saying that I have on a little plaque that says, your life experiences can either make you better, they can make you bitter, or they can make you better. Choose wisely. We can either get really angry about things that happen to us and around us, or we can use them to make us better, right? Because with that comes wisdom. Wisdom. I would much rather pull wisdom out of something than sit in something in turmoil and spin and feel like crap, right? You
Well,
know,
it is my hope that people will contact Lesley because back to my musical, my attempt to describe a journey similar to what Lesley is treating. You know, people who have gone through a situation of trauma, a situation of heartbreak, a situation of ethical issues and all that kinds of stuff can start out, and through a journey that Lesley can, I think, assist you on, hopefully end up in a place where we had the similar words of the last song that I played called Peace, where they get to a place that they know that they're comfortable, a place where they can let their mind meditate and where they can search deep inside, let their conscience be their guide. And I'm actually saying the actual words of the final song I sang. And the answers are sure to come. Don't have to worry. Peace is for everyone. And with this in mind, where can people get a hold of you, find you? How can people get in touch with you now that you are really, hopefully, launched with this podcast as someone that can really assist people and make a profoundly positive difference?
you can visit my website, lesleypazdzioch.com, and actually have a pilot program that I'm starting right now. That I'm taking the first 50 to 60 people, and I'm actually going to mentor them one-on-one. Just us one-on-one with me. I don't tell you what to do. I help you figure it out. Because I don't think that anybody has the right to tell anybody else what to do and how to do it. We all have to learn on our own levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think this mentorship that I'm doing right now, there's a 7, a 10, and a 14-week difference, depending on how fast you want to move through it, how much you feel like you have to go through. And the great part about it is it's healing forward. One of the things I think is really important too is through this process that I've created, you're healing forward because healing, the whole means of healing is to feel better, right? So it's feeling better moving forward. You can't move forward stagnant in negative past emotions or something. You just have to go forward. And that's what I'm going to start teaching through this program. And then I just started, my podcast is going to start, and it's called Life Made Easier. So that's
Great.
I just think that we all have the ability to heal each other, heal ourselves and others. It doesn't have life doesn't have to be this hard. This doesn't have to be this hard. And once we get that, it's fun. It's really fun.
Well, so folks, you want to go to lesleypazdzioch.com, and her spelling is right there on the screen, but we'll put it in the description, etc. But it's just basically her name.com. You'll be able to get in touch with her there. And then there's also a podcast. Is the podcast already started? Do you already have episodes, or is that coming?
No, this is my first episode, and I think, Rick, I'm going to have to come and invite you onto my show.
You know what? That's a good idea.
I think we should do these regularly.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, because I'll be honest with you, there's so much that I want to talk to you about you, but I'm just looking at the time, and I know that people can only take so much in one episode. But if they get but yes, let's do that. Let's do.
I think we should, because I think we could move mountains. I truly believe, Jazz for Peace, and just that. I just think that this was it was divine intervention.
Ladies and gentlemen, keep an eye on this relationship with Lesley and Jazz for Peace, because we feel the same thing here at Jazz for Peace. We think there's a synergy here, and we really think Lesley is onto something and off to the races with it. So keep an eye. Go visit lesleypazdzioch.com, which we're going to give you. But then don't forget to check out this podcast, and you might see my name on the episode list. And the name of the podcast is, tell them its name.
Life Made Easier.
Life Made Easier with host Lesley Pazdzioch. So, folks, keep an eye on that stuff. Stay with us here at Jazz for Peace. And thank you so much, Lesley, for this insightful episode. We really appreciate this first opportunity.
Can't wait for us to move forward and create some magic in the world, create some happiness, peace, and love, and and forgiveness. Don't forget that. It's such a beautiful thing.
Well, there you have it, folks. And just remember, whatever you do, the final solution is love. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.